After 3 years with Felix, I finally got pregnant with his child. Determined to just borrow some good genes, I slipped away that night. Shortly after, the baby was born. One night, I was frantically nursing the baby in the car when Felix suddenly appeared at the window. Awkwardly, I coaxed the child. "Don't cry, baby. Say hi to Uncle." He smirked coldly. "You call your dad Uncle too?" "I'm Stella, just past 27, and already a shareholder in a public company. With billions in assets and no one to inherit, I was pretty worried. So, I decided to find a good man and have a smart kid to inherit my wealth. I set my sights on Felix. He's strong, athletic, smart, handsome, with a clean lifestyle. I was impressed. It took 2 years of scheming before I caught his eye. Late at night, he held me close, burying his head in my neck. "Stella, let's get married." I touched my tummy, pursing my lips. "I like my freedom, and our relationship doesn't feel stable enough." I considered marrying Felix, but with houses, cars, and savings, I could switch boyfriends daily. "Why marry?" His eyes darkened, and he nipped my lip, then stared intensely. "You're leaving?" "Hard to say." I wrapped my arms around his neck, batting my lashes. "But maybe if we had a child." Before I could finish, his heated kiss silenced me. That night, he wasn't in a good mood, exhausting me completely before letting me sleep. 2 months later, in the morning, my period was late, and I felt anxious. I bought a pregnancy test. After a sip of water, I looked at it again. 2 lines. Pregnant. That night, before Felix got back, I packed and returned to my 3,000 square foot mansion. While leisurely browsing pregnancy tips, the phone rang. Felix's name blinked on the screen. I promptly ignored it. In 3 minutes, he called over 10 times. I thought I'd made it clear. No marriage, no responsibility. Disappearing seemed a bit unethical, though. I sighed and answered. His voice came coldly. "Where are you?" Felix didn't sound right. He should just be curious about my whereabouts, not blow up my phone, right? "At my mom's," I lied, biting my lip. "Family stuff came up." "Address." Now, he wasn't himself. Did he figure out my plan? "You don't need to come. I'll be back in a few days." "Address," he insisted, cool as ice. I sighed deeply and told him, figuring I'd leave after seeing him. I had plenty of places to stay. Soon, there was a knock. Wrapped in a blanket, I opened the door, only to be pulled into a familiar embrace. The scent was unmistakable. Felix. He clung to me, almost crushing me with his grip, voice raw. "Why didn't you tell me?" I opened my mouth, fumbling for words. It was all so sudden. Lowering my voice, I added, "My folks are asleep. Keep it down." "Not that." Felix continued. "You're pregnant. Why not tell me?" I froze. "What?" It took 2 seconds to recall I'd left the test on the table. Got too smug and forgot. But I had to end things. I pushed him firmly. "Let's break up, Felix." He released me slightly, chuckled bitterly. "You want the kid to have no father? The child?" I licked my lips, thinking of a good story. I had an abortion. Here to recover. I saw it hit him. His body stiffened, eyes red. "Do you really not want a future with me?" He shook, voice breaking. I'd never seen him this mad. Bored of him, I shrugged. "I said at the start I didn't want anything from you. Why so dramatic?" "Fine." Felix's eyes were full of tears, making me feel guilty. He seemed about to speak, then slammed the door instead. I sighed. Always with the tears. Isn't this how all guys react? Felix didn't contact me again. I focused on the pregnancy. While shopping for baby clothes, a Facebook notification popped up. Felix, wasted at a bar. In the video, he drank shot after shot, looking heartbroken. Once a business powerhouse, now alone in a bar. Everyone wondered who had the guts to dump Felix. I logged off, patting my belly and returning to my shopping. Boy or girl didn't matter to me. Time flew by, my belly becoming more noticeable. During occasional shareholder meetings, it was impossible to hide. Fellow shareholders asked, "When did this happen?" I smiled coyly. "Just a few months ago. The dad's abroad." No point in sharing the complicated truth. Felix seemed to have moved on from me. After Facebook, he rarely surfaced in public. I knew he wouldn't stay down for long. Feeling sad for a bit, he'd soon bounce back in business, forgetting me and this fizzled-out relationship. On the due date, it snowed heavily. Supported by my mom and friend, I got out of the car. An empty can suddenly flew toward us, missing but catching my eye. There, on a nearby bench, sat a man in a black coat. His hair was longer, partly covering his eyes. But I knew it was Felix. Shocked, I clutched my coat tighter around my belly. Felix pointed to my left. It was too dark to see his face, but I heard his lazy voice say, "Registration's over there." I was uncomfortable and didn't really want to chat with him. As I turned to leave, he got up, frowned, and put my arm over his shoulder, scooping me up effortlessly and walking inside with a blank expression. What was going on? Was he about to toss me into a river or something? "What's wrong with you?" he suddenly asked. Why did it feel like he was insulting me? I tugged at my coat and bit my lip. Appendicitis. He didn't say anything else and set me down on a chair in the hall. My mom finally realized what was happening and went to get registered. I was mortified and wished I could disappear, but then he said, appendicitis, and you're getting registered for obstetrics? Not only did I want to disappear, I wanted to drag my mom with me. Probably got the wrong department. I'll message her, I muttered awkwardly, pretending to scroll on my phone. Trying to change the subject, I asked, what are you doing here? Felix glanced down. My dad's in the hospital. Since he didn't ask further, I felt relieved. I thought your dad was in great health. He gave me a sidelong glance. Not your business. So, when are you leaving? The air felt thick for a few seconds. Suddenly, Felix said, you're looking good lately. My heart sank again. Did he know something? He smirked slightly. You've put on weight. Pregnancy swelling had indeed made me look rounder. It seemed he didn't notice anything significant. I nodded, smiling, trying to play it off. Yeah, I've been eating well 'cause I'm happy. Felix's eyes darkened, like he was holding back anger. Live well and don't regret it. I echoed his words playfully. You better not regret it. He left without a word, looking annoyed. Because of his little show, I had to explain to my mom that we were just friends and had bumped into each other, and he helped me out since I wasn't feeling well. After registration, the tests showed I'd probably deliver in the next couple of days. I needed to stay in the hospital and wait. A friend brought me lots of baby supplies from home. That evening, feeling hungry, I was thinking about what to eat when I suddenly felt a sharp pain. The nurse came and told me my water broke. It was time. I was rushed to the delivery room. 5 hours later, I finally gave birth. The nurse said it was a boy and showed me the baby. The baby was healthy, very fair, with thick hair and big eyes that made him look especially adorable. I looked at him for a bit, then a few nurses gathered around. We haven't seen a baby with eyes this big in a while. Such double eyelids, he's gonna be handsome. They chatted away while I smiled faintly, too exhausted to talk. I stared at the ceiling, thinking about what name to give him. On the third day after giving birth, the nurse told me to move around. I wrapped up in my coat and took a lap around the lobby before heading back. When the elevator arrived, it got crowded as soon as I stepped in. Standing in the corner, I felt a bit lost. Step in, someone shouted. Then, a familiar voice said, it's full. I looked up and saw Felix. What a small world. He stood in front, blocking most of the people trying to squeeze in. What floor? He suddenly asked. It took me a second to realize he was talking to me. 13th floor. After a brief silence, he asked, maternity center? Surprised, I nearly wanted to jump out the window. Oh no. Slip of the tongue. I steadied myself. Yeah, a relative staying there. I'm just checking in. Felix didn't turn around. Just had appendix surgery. Take it easy. Don't overdo it. So sarcastic. I knew he resented me for breaking up with him, but I wasn't angry and ignored him. When we got to the 13th floor, I slowly walked out. As soon as I stepped out, my mom came over, carrying the baby. Stella, the baby's hungry. Hurry, hurry. I looked at the baby, then turned to glance at Felix. Our eyes met, and it was a bit awkward. I stiffened up and, as the elevator doors were closing, said, Mom, isn't cousin back yet? I'll help with the baby's formula. The elevator doors shut slowly. I didn't look back, unsure of Felix's reaction. Probably didn't suspect anything. Knowing him, if he had, he'd have stormed out, teeth gritting. What cousin? My mom asked, confused as she approached. I hedged, just misspoke. My mom didn't know who the baby's father was. But I didn't hide that I wanted a child to inherit my fortune. She wasn't thrilled about it. She wanted me to marry, have a normal family, and be happy. However, since my parents divorced when I was young and from my own experiences, I knew marriage didn't guarantee happiness. You couldn't expect one person to love another forever. That's why I didn't want to marry. I never thought that marriage and kids were necessary for a fulfilled life. Besides, I had property, money, and savings. Men would just slow me down. After arguing with my mom about it, she seemed to waver. She sighed softly. As long as you can take care of the baby, I'll support you. I was confident, of course. Soon after being discharged, I joined a postpartum recovery class. 3 months later, I pretty much returned to my pre-pregnancy shape. Since I hired a nanny, I hardly felt tired after the baby was born. I ate well, slept soundly, and occasionally dreamt of Felix. Dreams where he surprised me with a kiss while I was on the phone. Dreams where he tightens a bottle cap on purpose, only opening it after a kiss. Dreams of the night when he tearfully asked me, do you really not want a future with me? 3 years, and we shared so many memories. Saying I never liked Felix would be a lie. But having chosen this path, I shouldn't waver now. One morning, while making formula, a Facebook notification popped up. I slowed down. Rumors about Felix and a popular actress possibly dating. Aside from being shocked, I was somewhat relieved seeing that news. As I figured, Felix got over our breakup pretty quickly and moved on to a new relationship. That's just how he is. He never lingers over things that aren't worth it. A baby's cry pulled me back, so I put down my phone and rushed over with a bottle. The day I took the baby for a vaccine, the company had a sudden board meeting. They were talking about a collaboration with a film company to promote a popular actress. I listened for a bit, then focused on shopping for toys online. Is it that Helen person? She's definitely pretty. She's been getting a lot of attention lately, especially with those rumors about Felix. If she's in a romance drama, it might be bad for the show's reception. Hearing Felix's name made me look up slowly. Two board members were still chatting nearby. The screen displayed Helen's profile and photo. So, she's Felix's rumored girlfriend? What a coincidence. She's got the fair skin, the looks, and those long legs. Definitely very pretty. Just as I was intently watching, someone suddenly asked, "Stella, you're a girl too. What do you think of this young lady?" I nodded and smiled. She's pretty and popular. Just don't put her in a romance drama, so her boyfriend won't get jealous. You're always so considerate. They laughed, then went on with their conversation. After the meeting, I was about to head back to my office to pack up. Opening the door with some files in hand, I glanced up and saw a familiar figure. Felix was standing by the window. Hearing the door, he slowly turned around. Before he could speak, my assistant quickly explained, "Stella, this is Felix. You were in the meeting, and I didn't have a chance to tell you. Felix needed a place to rest for a bit." I wasn't quite registering what she said, so I pulled her aside. "Why is Felix here today?" "Stella, didn't the meeting mention it? The film company is under Felix's enterprise." My silence was deafening. This just shows, pay attention in meetings. I gestured for the assistant to go, then walked in, heading straight for my bag on the desk. With a smile over my shoulder, I said, "Make yourself comfortable, Felix. I'm heading out." Felix adjusted his glasses, walked a few steps toward me, then stopped in front of the sofa with a slight smile. "Pretty much done resting. Mainly came to check out the company my girlfriend's working with." He put extra emphasis on the word girlfriend. No doubt, he was here to show off and mock me. I smiled slightly. "Take your time, Felix. I've got to go." I grabbed my bag and turned to leave, but a dull sound came from near my feet. Looking down, I saw a pink baby bib lying conspicuously on the carpet. In a panic, I bent down. The bib was swiftly snatched up. "Bye, Felix." I was anxious and hurried over, hand outstretched. "Give it back." Felix didn't seem keen on returning it, examining the bib while raising an eyebrow. "A baby bib? You still use these?" I snatched it back, stuffing it into my bag. "I drool in my sleep. Bought it to use. Is that a problem?" "Really?" He smirked. "I don't remember that." I hesitated. People change. His gaze darkened unexpectedly, looking at me like I was something distasteful. Fully restraining whatever he wanted to say, he turned and exited before I did. Watching him leave was a relief. I knew, if I ever mentioned the past, he'd instantly reveal his resentment towards me, hopefully forgetting what just happened. The contract got settled, and the company wanted to treat the collaborators for dinner, to show we're sincere. I intended to skip it, wanting to get home to my baby, but folks said I dodged enough times already. Said they'd tie me to a chair if they had to. With a mental sigh, I agreed. I didn't expect Felix and Helen to show up at dinner. Said he was there for his girlfriend. At that moment, he was sitting across from me. I watched a video of my baby eating, sent by the nanny, oblivious to his expression. "Felix, care for a drink?" someone asked. Before Felix could respond, Helen's sweet voice chimed in. "Felix doesn't like alcohol." "How about you, Helen?" a man said, starting to pour her a drink. I couldn't help but interject. "She's just a young girl. No need to force her." "True. How about you, Stella?" "Yeah." Stella used to drink a ton. No way I could drink while taking care of a kid. I was just about to decline when someone cut in. "Stella's got a baby to look after, so no drinks for her, right?" Feeling my back stiffen, I was momentarily at a loss for words. I dared not meet Felix's eye. After a quick mental scramble, I stammered. "Yeah, taking care of a relative's kid. Please, no more bringing it up." Putting my phone away, I stood and reached for the drink, hoping the drunks would shut up once they saw me hold it. Enough about me. Cheers. After clinking glasses, I felt my nerves ease. Putting down his cup, one time used. "Stella, your kid must be, what, 3 or 4 months old? That husband of yours is quite something, leaving the country for so long." Keeping my head down, I forced a smile. "Yeah, I didn't look up, but I felt Felix's intense gaze. Obviously, he caught on. I have a kid now. Technically, I'm like a single mom. No one seemed to notice the odd tension between us as they started chatting about business. But my mind was set, I'd get through this meal no matter what. Let it all end. I'm exhausted. Suddenly my phone rang. It was the nanny. Baby had an upset stomach and fever. My heart sank as I stood to leave. You all keep going. I've got an emergency at home, I announced, my gaze brushing Felix's face, predicting a predatory glare. Setting my jaw, I left. It was close to 10 by the time we left the hospital. The doctor assured us it was nothing serious, just a slight cold causing the diarrhea. A bit of medicine should do the trick. Hugging the baby, my heart ached. Thank goodness my assistant was there. She could drive and was more of a sister to me than a colleague. Holding the baby in the car, with him still fussy, I cooed, "Don't cry, sweetie. We're almost home." As the car stopped under a street lamp, suddenly the light on me was blocked by something. I instinctively looked up. It was Felix. He stood by the car window, looking down at me with this indescribable glimmer in his eyes. It startled me a bit, and I tried to control my expression as I laughed and said, "What a coincidence. I've got something to do, so I should get going." As I finished speaking, I went to close the window, but Felix placed his hand on it. If I closed it, it would crush his hand, so I didn't press the button. "You really have nothing going on. Might as well spend time with your girlfriend," I continued. He didn't follow my lead on that topic. Instead, he frowned and asked, "The kid, what's going on?" I could feel him trying to keep his emotions in check. There was anger, confusion, and maybe even some concern. The baby kept crying. I rocked gently, whispering, "Don't cry, little one. Say hello to uncle." In the next second, Felix opened the car door and stepped inside with his long legs. The back seat sank on one side, and when I turned my head, he was already sitting next to me. Then he let out a cold laugh, saying, "You call him your dad and also uncle?" The atmosphere got awkward real quick. "You're joking. This child has nothing to do with you." Felix said nothing. His eyes filled up with a whirlwind of emotions. With trembling hands, he gently touched the baby's head through the bundle, saying, "Don't cry. Daddy's here." When Felix said that, my heart skipped a beat. I didn't expect him to say something like that. The baby's cries gradually faded away until he fell asleep. His peaceful sleeping face felt like a slap to my own, as he stopped crying as soon as Felix spoke. My assistant drove us back home, and maybe because we didn't want to wake the kid, neither of us said a word. He must hate me now, right? No, probably hates me even more now. Once home, I laid the sleeping baby on the bed and quietly tiptoed out. But as I turned around, I bumped right into Felix, who was standing there without me noticing. He moved his lips as if to say something and then pulled me outside. The living room was dimly lit by a small lamp. The soft light cast a nice outline of his face on the wall. His first words were, "The kid, what's the deal?" Same question as before. "It's exactly what you see." I pursed my lips, then looked up at him. "I got close to you for the kid. Now I've got what I wanted, and you have a new girlfriend. Everyone's happy, isn't that good? A child grows up without a father. You think you can make up for that love?" A question that strikes at the soul. Messing around like this, I truly didn't know how to end it. "Why won't you marry me?" he asked. I thought for a couple seconds and feigned nonchalance. "I don't believe you'll love me forever. So the best way to deal with this is not to get married. Give it a shot. What if you can't make it?" I scoffed, trying to say you when he interrupted, his voice steady, drop dead. His words were light, but his tone was no joke. I was startled again, my brows twitched. I expected lots of over-the-top promises from him, but not something this serious. Felix was usually rational. He wouldn't say anything like this unless he meant business. I calmed myself and sighed softly. "Stop this nonsense. We broke up only a few months back, and now you've got a new girlfriend. Saying this, isn't it ridiculous? Remember when my dad was in the hospital?" Felix went on, his health's declining, and he paused, "grandkids. Can't you have one with Helen then? Your guys' kids would definitely." Before I finished, Felix interrupted softly, "I'm with her just to keep my parents satisfied. I won't love her and only want a kid with you." Couldn't help but palm my face with a chuckle. "Felix, seriously? So, being with Helen is just to keep your dad in check?" I sighed, feeling weary, and turned to sit on the sofa, not rushing to speak. But Felix was definitely head over heels. Right after we got together, he was eager to tell his parents about us. His parents were kind to me too. He knew I'd care for his mom and dad. Felix didn't move, still standing in front of the sofa. I yawned, thinking of avoiding the issue. Seems there's no solution. Let's just get some rest. Felix raised a brow at me, then the corner of the sofa sunk down as he sat beside me. "There is." I turned my head slowly. Next thing I knew, he leaned in and kissed me unexpectedly, his lips brushing against mine, and I was finding it hard to breathe. Tomorrow, let's get a marriage license, he murmured, voice low by my ear. No license. As soon as I said that, he kissed me again. The look on his face today suggested that if I didn't agree, he'd kiss me until my lips were swollen, so I quickly changed my tune. Marriage license it is, tomorrow. Worst case, I'll pretend to be dead tomorrow. Felix stopped, and I tightened my lips, couldn't help saying, you're devious. He kept his gaze on my lips, a hint of amusement flicked in his eyes, but it vanished soon, ran off with my baby, wondering who's more devious. Get out. I leaned back on the sofa, slightly upset, asking, how can you be sure the kid is yours? What if I had them with someone else? Then why would you be avoiding me? He had me stumped. Right, I broke up with him openly, so whose baby it is isn't his concern. Why avoid him? You dropped a baby's bib once, and that got me suspicious, he continued. I saw you acting all sneaky, so I investigated. George said the kid's 3 or 4 months old. Do the math, only mine. Sneaky, really? Even alcohol couldn't shut George up. So during the group dinner today, he already knew everything? No wonder, I thought it was just a coincidence running into him at the hospital entrance. Now there was nothing to be done, didn't want to come off as petty. I stood up, then I'm off to bed, you do whatever tonight. Felix gave a light agreeing so easily it surprised me. But I couldn't care less, I headed inside. By the time I awoke in the early morning, Felix had disappeared. I checked my phone, found a text from him, I'm waiting downstairs. Sent an hour ago. Half an hour later, reluctantly holding the baby, I got in the car and spotted Felix sitting in the backseat. It was his assistant driving. I gave him a quick glance through the window. He looked a bit worn out. Just as I closed the car door, I heard a voice behind me, let me hold him. I turned to see Felix sitting there, reaching out his hands. You don't know how to hold him, I said. I can do it myself. But the next second, he had already taken the baby, one hand supporting the baby's head, the other under the bottom. His baby holding technique was spot on, even better than mine. I chuckled. So skilled. Do you have other kids somewhere? He didn't look up. It's not hard. Let's take the baby to my parents first, he said. I leaned back, feeling comfy, and then realized something was off. Was he serious about taking the baby to his parents? If they saw the baby, I would really be stuck with no way out. Just as I was about to ask, his phone rang. It was his mom calling. With him holding the baby, I answered for him and put it on speaker. His mom's voice came through. When are you bringing Stella and my precious grandchild over? I've asked the maid to prepare food for you. I was slightly embarrassed. Had he told his parents already? And what about Helen? Stella needs to rest after having a baby, so drive cautiously, dear. I'll be waiting, his mom insisted. It was clear she was more concerned about my well-being than the baby. Felix simply replied, okay. I quickly ended the call and asked, don't your parents know about you and Helen? Won't they think you're a jerk if you suddenly show up with a baby? Felix didn't lift his head. I've explained it to them, and for daughter-in-law, they only recognize you. Still touched by his mom's concern for me, I was about to put the phone back when I caught a glimpse of the Google search history on the screen. My hand paused. How to hold a newborn. Best foods for postpartum recovery. Can a 4-month-old call you daddy? Maternal mortality rates. How soon after birth can you? Well, you know, something weird had definitely slipped in there. There were plenty of searches about taking care of a baby. It was clear he had tried to learn. When we got out of the car, Felix carried the baby ahead of me, and his assistant followed behind. Stella, don't listen to Felix's nonsense, his assistant suddenly said. Last night, Felix didn't sleep a wink trying to learn how to take care of the baby. I smiled. How do you know? Felix called me at 3 a.m. asking how to hold a baby. Hearing this, I pictured the scene and found it both funny and a bit heartwarming. He really seemed like he wanted to spend his life with me. Being led to the marriage office, I felt like it was all a dream until we walked out with the certificate. As soon as we stepped out, I got a call. Work stuff. They needed me to head over immediately. I told Felix, and he offered to drive me there. I didn't refuse. I left Felix in the office to wait for me. After a long meeting, I came out to find Helen waiting. She greeted me with a sweet smile. Stella, she said. I stopped. What's up? Are you and Felix really close? She asked softly. It seemed she didn't know Felix and I had just gotten married. It wasn't really my business to tell her, so I vaguely answered. Yeah, we're all right. I didn't expect you to have a baby so young, she said, seemingly having a sudden realization. Stella, you and your husband, are you already separated? Her words felt like she was being rather roundabout. I asked, what do you need? She looked nervous. I was hoping you could help me talk to Felix about ending our fake dating thing. I was surprised. I thought things would be complicated, so I asked curiously, why? Stella. She suddenly called my name softly. I put on a serious face. Tell me, if there's any trouble, I'll definitely help you. I saw a photo of your baby on Felix's phone the other day, she said shyly with a smile. The baby is beautiful, just like you. I was puzzled and didn't dare to think too much into it. So, the fake dating, why call it off? Actually, I like girls, she confessed, mustering a lot of courage to meet my eyes. The other day at the dinner table, you helped me out, and I was really moved. So I want to pursue you. Seeing my silence, Helen probably understood what I was thinking. She pouted cutely. My heart softened, and I asked helplessly, why do you like me? Without missing a beat, she replied, you have a car, a house, a dead husband, and such a beautiful baby. It fits my criteria for a partner perfectly. Before I could respond, a shadow loomed over us. It was Felix, standing next to me, looking upset. I couldn't imagine how someone so handsome could make such a terrifying expression. You told her I was dead? Felix asked. Stella, Felix? Both of them stared at me. Was I such a terrible person to deserve this? Until Felix pulled out our freshly issued marriage certificate. Helen took ages to fully grasp it before reluctantly backing down. Stella, if Felix isn't good to you, just divorce him and I'll take care of you, Helen offered. Her words hung unfinished as Felix's gaze silenced her. That day will never come, Felix said in a low voice. Well, now divorce wasn't an option either. The dream of finding a male model was toast. Felix organized a wedding for us, and it had all the ceremonies and trimmings. I found it troublesome, but honestly, I just didn't want it. But he insisted. He said all girls like this stuff. All right, I guess. After a busy day, I just rushed to collapse on the bed when I got home. Felix took the baby from the nanny, smoothly changed the diaper, and then fed the baby. Once the baby fell asleep, he carefully put the baby in the crib and stared at the baby in a daze. What are you thinking about? I couldn't help but walk up and ask. Felix was silent for a few seconds, looking a bit troubled, and then suddenly walked over and hugged me. These past months have been tough, right? I was stunned. I understood he was talking about how exhausting taking care of the baby was. It's actually all right. Having money takes care of a lot of things. But I didn't expect he was zoning out over this. Even though I had been dodging him with the baby, how come he seemed a bit guilty in his tone? I shook my head. It's fine, with Lily and Sophia around, it's not too tiring. Once postpartum was done, I really only got up at night to make formula for the baby. Felix hugged me without saying anything, and I sensed something was off. I pushed him away and held his face to look closely, only to see his eyes were red again. Who would believe that this man with red-eyed teary eyes, looking so pitiful now, is the same Felix who is decisive and hard-nosed at work, always with a stern face? I couldn't help but laugh, softly kissing the corners of his reddened eyes. What's got you crying? He didn't speak. Not until later did I find out that he had searched for the term maternal mortality rate, and his browser bombarded him with stories of mothers who suffered a lot due to childbirth, with some even losing their lives. It scared him to tears. Epilogue. My name is Eason. I don't really know what it means to live a winning life. But when I was just 1 year old, $1 billion worth of inheritance from my grandparents was transferred to my name. When I was 3, the multi-million assets from my parents were also given to me. My grandparents and both sets of grandparents adored me, and even Helen liked me a lot. Except for my parents. To be precise, my dad. According to my mom, I got kicked out of their room by my dad when I was 2. Pretty sad, I know, but I'm not mad about it. Grandma said to hang on, maybe I'd have a little brother or sister in a couple of years. I held on, because if I had a sibling to be kicked out along with me, I'd feel a bit more balanced inside. But even by the time I was 12, still no sibling. It wasn't until later when I heard from my dad that he didn't want Mom to suffer through that again. I didn't want that either, so that was that. Mom's truly great, so I vowed to treat her well. By 18, I had learned to run the company. In my free time, I picked up piano, violin, and learned 7 languages. I traveled occasionally. It was pretty liberating. Some talent scouts approached me, saying I could make a lot of money. I turned them down. It's not like I need the cash or anything. Dad occasionally gives me tips on managing the company. Mom always has her own stuff going on. She either manages some company affairs or hangs out with her friends. Basically, she never clings to Dad. My dad's like, you're so busy all the time, you don't have time for me. My mom's all hugging her friend. I'm busy for this family, for you too, is it easy for me? Yet I never doubted my mom's love for my dad because I know she did a lot for him behind the scenes. But those two were always lovey-dovey. It was really something. When I turned 25, I met a girl I liked. I'd never actually dated before. Dad always said if you decide to be with someone, you need to commit. Caught in a bit of confusion, but I didn't press further. Whatever Dad says goes, I guess. That's why I approached love carefully all my life. But I really liked this girl. The kind of like where you want to be with her forever. After 2 years of dating, we got married. By the 3rd year, we had a daughter. My mom practically doted on them like they were her own. I felt kind of invisible as her real son. By the time I was 40, my parents' health started to decline. Mom often forgot things, didn't recognize us, but always remembered Dad. They hardly managed the company anymore, and Dad was always by her side. I'd say, "Dad, I got this. Why don't you rest?" He'd always reply, "I'm only at peace when I'm by her side." When I was 42, Mom got lost. Dad had taken her to the park, and in the time it took to buy a bottle of water, she disappeared. Dad didn't sleep for a day, finally finding her at an old record store. Dad said it was the place they met. Even though she barely recognized anyone, she always knew when Dad was around. A young girl sat near the entrance, heartbroken, likely just broken up. They seemed to have been chatting for a while. The girl cried, "He doesn't want me anymore." Mom comforted, "When the light goes out, you'll see the sun." The girl wiped her tears, "And what about you, Grandma? Did you see the sun?" Of course, Mom's eyes were distant, but she smiled. "My sun never set." Not long after, Mom passed away. Dad's health quickly deteriorated too. He said, Mom was never afraid of being alone, but he was. 2 months after dealing with Mom's affairs, he also passed away. I remember the night of Mom's burial. Dad sat in front of Stella's grave, once again teary-eyed. "Stella, I've fulfilled every promise I made to you. In the next life, please trust me."